You know, it's a lot. It's a lot of different facets to it, so we can't cover everything at one time. But today, what we're going to talk about is the interrelationship between a husband and a wife. The interrelationship between a husband and a wife. Talk about some of the nuts and bolts of of that. Just a brief review, because it's important on this. Now, we talked about as far as characteristics of a successful team last week. Number one was effective communication. Now, we're going to come back and hit that effective communication, but I want to say that one now. Number two, have an established culture in place. Number three, develop knowledge on how to build each other up. Number four, learn how to give and to receive constructive criticism. Okay, I ain't gonna stop there. I'm gonna stop there for a second. Number five, understand mutual benefits that it can create. Now, that's what we're talking about as far as characteristics of a team, successful team. Now, we hit on as far as concern effective communication. But before I do that, I want to hit one definition. You know, I'm telling you, this definition that Pastor gave on marriage. I believe God really spoke to him on this because it's packed with so much information. But let's read it here. Marriage is a divine institution created by God, where two rational, free moral agents who are born again of the opposite sex choose to enter into a covenant relationship with each other and have made an unconditional lifetime commitment to God to stay with an imperfect person. It's a lot in that. Two things I'm going to hit on concerning that, though, and that's going to carry us anywhere we're going. Imperfect person. Y'all, you know what? None of us are perfect. None. There was only one perfect person. That was Jesus. None of us are perfect. But now the point of a covenant relationship, what you're doing, you're covering each other. You know, where you're strong, I'm weak. Where you're weak, I'm strong. That's the whole purpose of a covenant. So that's why in a marriage, you have to really focus in on that. You know, you're helping to build each other, like I said, building each other up. Yes. You know, being able to take constructive criticism and give constructive criticism. You know what? And I'm going to share something here. And the thing with that is this. Same with an imperfect person. Now, me and my wife.
I always hold my breath because I don't know what in the world Holy Spirit gonna have him reveal about me.
My wife, I don't know if any of y'all had a chance to really kind of work close with my wife. My wife is a task-driven person. Task-driven person. Now, what I mean by that is this. You give her any task, my wife is going to figure it out. If she doesn't know it, she's going to work the right channels and she's going to get it done and she's going to do it in excellence. That's my wife. She's going to do that. She's a task-driven person. But now, with that, now see, again, where in covenant relationship, you're helping each other. Now, the thing about with a person that's focused on task-driven, a lot of times they might kind of gravitate to working towards by themselves. That they might not be inclusive in others. It might not be as easy to include other people. Because, like, I can go ahead and do it. And it's not arrogance or anything, but it's like that's kind of a natural thing that's in her as far as being a task-driven person. Now, as I observe that, again, being domestic head, you know, I have to kind of observe what's going on with my wife, observe what's going on with my children and everything. And I told her, well, babe, I know you can do it, but sometimes, you know, you might be even more effective if you be inclusive of other people. Bring other people in. Give them assignments. Give them things to do within that task. So then you could probably get more done. Because, see, ultimately we want to be effective. So that's why I share it with her. Now, that was constructive criticism. My wife, she received that, you know, and she took it. She's like, okay. And it's a continual process, you know. Now, for me, I'm a people-driven person. My thing is this. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. My thing is, man, we get together. You know, first thing I'm thinking about, something come up, I'm like, okay, we can get this person, because because I'm always observing people. I observe my family, but I observe people too. Some of their strengths and some of their weaknesses. You know, I was in management for about 20 years. You know, managing anywhere from 15 to 50 people at one time. I mean, hands-on directing, not just, you know, telling them this. So I'm always observing what's going on. Let's go ahead and do that. But the thing about it, what was happening is I was getting frustrated. Let me tell you why. Because when you're a people-driven person on that, you give a person a task to do, and you equip them to do it, and they still don't do it. So then you're like, well, doggone it. I mean, look, I'm giving you, I'm baby feeding this to you. Yep. And you still not gonna do it? That's why when I was in management, it was a restaurant business, man, I would fire people, y'all. I'm like, look, yeah, okay, look, you if you don't want to work, you can go home. I'll do it myself. You can go home, okay? And it's all good.
Yep.
But the detriment is this. I'm getting frustrated. And my wife, she pulled me to the side and corrected me on this. Okay, you're getting all frustrated, you're getting agitated because you're doing what you need to do to equipping the people. But sometimes what you have to do is you have to lean over to being that task driven. You got to do it, and sometimes you have to just go in there and do it, and maybe you do it by the example. As opposed to even before you look into trying to bring people in, trying to work people together, I'm like, yeah, we can all just come together, we can do, and that's true. But sometimes you got to do it as an individual. So, and I say all that to say this. See, that's two areas we realize about each other to help each other.
Right.
You got to be open and honest and really be able to accept the criticism and give criticism. Mm-hmm. So I want to share that. Proverbs 27:17 says, iron sharpens iron. Mm-hmm. She sharpens me, I sharpen her. That's where you all need to be in your marriages or in your relationships. Sharpen each other.
And remember, when you're sharpening that thing, it don't feel good to the thing you're sharpening.
Yeah.
So you just know it's not going to be something that's comfortable when that iron is sharper than iron, because there's two metals going together. Yeah, that's good. In the natural, but That's good. That's good.
And that's so true. But you know what? In order for all that to happen, now, you have to establish something. You have to establish effective communication. Mm-hmm. You can't just haul off. Now, don't haul off and try to be correcting your spouse and stuff, and y'all ain't sat down and talked and kind of communicated on things. No, don't do that, Nicole, because then, you asking for, undue stress. That's what you're doing. So
and then
you have to,
especially if you're the male and that's what you're doing.
See, go ahead.
And you putting it in that. Remember, whatever you put in her, she's gonna give birth. Yeah. It may not be immediate. But after a while, it might be just something that you said kind of slight now, but the volcano has erupted. Now what you gonna do?
Exactly. That's true. So we got to make sure we put the positive in. But the thing is, you're setting up, I say it too about developing a culture and developing structure. See, you set an atmosphere by communicating, talking honestly, talking just plainly talking, just don't, you have a set time or something. You just say, look, what's going on with you? What do you like? What do you, that's what you want to find out. What's going on with your spouse?
And learning how to listen.
Exactly. Learn how to listen. That's a big part of it.
That's important, because you can't be just having that communication to jump in and get your point across.
That ain't communication.
That's not communication.
That's not communication. That's when you just worry about getting your point across and you're not listening. That ain't communication. You just talking. Mm-hmm. You just talking. And that's the easy way for somebody to shut down. All right.
I think that's something, this is kind of a side journey, but I feel late to say it. Okay. That's something, even when we're talking to God, that you're not having a one-sided conversation. You need to learn how to be quiet and listen. Guess what he taught too? Mm-hmm. You wanna communicate with him. So it's the same thing with your spouse. You got to be quiet and listen so that you all are communicating. That's what causes the intimacy, when you know that person better in communication.
Exactly. That's so good. And that's something that I implemented personally. Lady P, she taught on this years and years ago about, as far as you praying to God, but then you need to stop and listen. Mm-hmm. See what the Holy Spirit telling you. A lot of times we don't stop and listen. And I grasped on that thing then, and I kept that. That's been years and years ago she taught on that.
Yes. And you got to know your spouse too. He's a believe it or not, he's a natural talker. I'm not. Yeah. And you may find that hard to believe, but I'm not a natural talker. I'm not an engager like that. So that's something I had to learn, to speak the things that were going on within me and not suppress it. So if your spouse is like that, you got to work with them.
Yes.
So that till they learn how to communicate. It don't come natural to everybody.
Exactly.
So that's why you gotta study your spouse and know, okay, Holy Spirit, that spirit of discernment will tell you something not right. Even if that person say, no, I'm good, when something is not right. Sometimes it may not be the time to discuss it, So that's why the spirit of discernment is a good thing.
Exactly.
But you know when something wrong. Don't just let it go and when they tell you, oh, I'm good, because they may not really be good. Pay attention to those signs. Those yellow flags are flying. Then you need to address it at appropriate time.
That's good. That's good. And I'm going to tell you, y'all, we've hit all over some of the things we're doing. You know, some things we want to talk to y'all about. But, okay, definition time for effective communication. Two people talking, listening, and understanding that which has been said by the other person. Talking, listening, understanding. Now, one of my favorite scriptures I said on Proverbs 24, 3 and 4, and Amplified, you know. Babe, why don't you read that for me? Proverbs 24, and basically, you know, it talks about wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. You know, you have to, and I want to amplify it. See, now right here it says, through skillful and godly wisdom. So now skill is something you attain. You have to work. So that's something you got to get in your Bible and read it. You got to apply it. You got to see what the words say, because you can't apply something you don't know what it say.
That's true.
Skillful and godly wisdom. Skillful and godly wisdom. For house, life, home, family, you know, and basically it's covering marriage, but I'll say marriage, business, whatever. You can plug that in. You want to get the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding on it. Then it says here, by understanding it is established on a sound and good foundation. You want to be on a sound and solid foundation. So wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Effective communication. But what if some enemies to effective communication? What are some things that prevent effective communication? Number one, trying to force your way of thinking on your spouse. Trying to say, look, it's this. What I'm thinking is right, and what you think, and you're right. Look, I'm the man. I'm the head. You just the woman. I ain't thinking about what you're talking about, really. I'm hearing you, but I ain't listening. No, because you're missing out on something. You're missing out on something that God can be instilling in her.
She's your helpmeet.
She's a helpmeet, exactly. But what we got to do, man, we got to flip it. Being domestic head, what you're doing basically, you're overseeing your house. You're overseeing, and then you speaking to God, speaking to you, and you seeing, okay, what? And then when situations come up, what's the best situation? How we need to handle this? I shared a couple weeks ago. You know, sometimes, you know, I'm reading the situation, and I'm like, okay, maybe my approach might not be the best thing for this. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna talk to my wife. I'm like, look, you need to lead out on this, and I'm gonna get behind you on this. That doesn't make me less of a man? No, at all. What it does make me a smart man, because I understand she's equipped and geared to handle that situation best. Because you want to be effective in every situation. See, that's when you're using, you know, that's when real team, you know, you're willing to step back, but then when you got to step out, you step out. See, and that's what we have to master that as men, as far as being domestic heads. But now too, and God is the spiritual head. But the spiritual, what we have to do as men, we have to usher that in. We have to usher God into our homes, usher God in our life through our lifestyle, through our example. That's what we do as men. Number two, whoa, this is a big one here. Dwelling on past mistakes and failures. Again, we're talking about enemies to effective communication. Dwelling on past mistakes and failures. We all have missed it sometimes. Yep. You know, you address it, you talk about it, but you can't continue to live in that. You can't live in that mistake. You can't continue to live in that mistake. Number three, this one right here is just self-explanatory, verbal abuse of our spouse. You can't be verbally abused. You got to watch your words. Watch your words. Watch how you speak to your spouse. Right. Friends to effective communication. Let me go ahead because our time is running out. Friends to effective communication. Understanding and investigating our spouse. Talking to our spouse, getting to know them, you know, getting to see what makes them tick, you know, just to, you know, what they like and what they don't like, you know, just talking, you know, just figure out what works for you, you know, going to the park or what. Go ahead, babe.
I was going to say, remember, this is continual.
Yes.
Because over the years, things change. What worked for me over 30 years ago now, yes, that don't work no more.
Exactly.
So he got to pay attention and know, and we got to communicate that.
Yes.
To know what has changed, because we change over time.
Exactly, that communication. Number two, talking about friends to effective communication. Balance, conversation is a two-way street. We talked about that. It's two-way streets. You listening, but you're talking. You listening, but you talk. And number 3, being able to give our spouse our undivided attention. Being able to give our spouse our undivided attention. And that's our time, y'all.